Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name's DJ. I know a lot of you and we know each other on a personal level, but I know every day more and more people get connected through all of our social media feeds. And today I have a really exciting opportunity and a pleasure to interview and introduce you to two amazing individuals that are revolutionizing the way business is done today. And it really gives you a different perspective. And for those of you I haven't met yet, I've been in the direct sales industry literally for almost 25 years. I'm 42 years young. When I was 18, just like you, we all have to make decisions in life. What do we want to do when we grow up? I was not very good at school. I really didn't want to get a job. I actually got introduced to the network marketing profession. I was in a position to meet some amazing, talented, top money earners in a company. I never heard of network marketing before. I've never done anything like this before. But when I sat in my first meeting, literally the dreams as a kid in my mind, I visually could see the reality come through this industry. And, I have a company called Carpe Diem Partners. It means seize the day. For those of you that don't know what that means. And that company was born, and I'm going to back up a little bit. A month before my 8th birthday, my father was taken from me in a plane crash, tragically, if you will, unexpectedly. And it took me months to realize that he really wasn't coming back. But when I did put that 2 and 2 together at the age of 8, I realized life is short, and you definitely got to live every day like it's your last. And so when I started my career in the network marketing space, I started a company called Carpe Diem. Although he passed, that's how the company was created and why. And every day, all I'd focus on is helping people's dreams and goals come true and give them a vehicle, a roadmap to go from point A to point B. We've been very successful with our businesses. We have a lot of fun with what we do. But our number one motivation in life is definitely freedom. It's not money. Obviously, you need money to have freedom. Money's not my motivator. A lot of times people ask you what motivates you. People say money. Most of the time they don't have it because it's much greater than the actual money. But when you can have $1 more of residual income than bills every single month, to me, you're wealthy. Your time freedom. You have choices in life. And for 25 years, almost 25 years, I've been building this industry. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on personal development, educational platforms, and learning from the best of the best. I went down many different rabbit holes. I'm sure a lot of you have bought courses and programs and books and trying to figure out, what path is the best for you. And that's what we did. We spent thousands upon thousands of hours. I don't even know how many hours, and just figuring it out. And for my first 22 years, I built my business completely offline, belly to belly, coffee shop after coffee shop. But 3 years ago, I decided to take my business completely online. And let me tell you, life has really never been never been the same rather. We actually coined the phrase mobilepreneur. All we focus on is we teach people how to leverage social media to make money from anywhere around the world. And that way you can own your life. You have time freedom. You can spend it with who you want, where you want, and when you want. And recently, fast forward now, I was introduced through a mutual contact to a gentleman that I've heard about him in the industry before. He and his sons were top 3 of the 10 money earners in a respective company. His business partner with the same success, the same results. And he actually shared with me that he and his business partner authored a book together. And as you know, the more books you read, the more knowledge you get, the better lifestyle you're going to have over time. I learned a phrase years ago: leaders are readers. And that's one of the things that I've always learned. And when I first started in this industry, I had a hard time reading. I had a bad comprehension. I could read a paragraph and I'm thinking about 12 other things. So then I really started developing into the audiobook world. But this book kept my attention from page 1 all the way through the end. It was a fun read. It was enjoyable. The humor was amazing. The stories were spectacular. But the message hit me directly between the eyes. It was spot on. I've been in this industry for over 2 decades, but I've heard this message before, but I never heard it in a way where I really grasped it and understood. So I'm going to bring on the two amazing authors, Mr. Jim Packard and George Campbell, of the book, The Consistency Chain for Network Marketers. Gentlemen, how are you guys today?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I think that was the nicest introduction we've ever had, George.
Yeah, and we usually do the introductions ourselves. So you would think we would be better, but no.
Yeah, your sense of humor comes on this this cast as well as in the book, you guys. I mean, since you're, a lot of books don't hold my attention, and they just don't. And this book, I couldn't put it down because I was getting so many simple aha moments along the way. And so why don't, first and foremost, whether George or Jim, you guys decide, but why don't you guys share your background of how you got where you're at today, what you did in the industry, what you did prior to the network marketing industry that, had you look in the first place?
All right. You want me to, maybe I'll start off and tell you how I met George.
That'd be great.
Because then he can reverse the role. I got a call from my son, Jeff, who lives in Tucson, that says, Dad, I'm putting together a team meeting. I'd love to have you and Mom come down and support us. And we lived in Scottsdale at the time, not too far from you, actually. And so I put the dog in the car and we drove down to Tucson, and I'm sitting in the back row with with the dog in our lap, and I'm listening to this guy speaking, and I'm going, I didn't even know who he was. I just knew he was doing a routine called Joe Malarkey, America's Worst Motivational Speaker. And I'm sitting there, DJ, and I'm going, oh my God, this guy's good. He's funny. Well, I didn't even know that he was a stand-up comic for 10 years with Jerry Seinfeld and that whole group of comics. I didn't know that he was in the Speakers Hall of Fame. Never dawned on me. I didn't know that, I later found out that he was on To Tell the Truth and 60 Minutes, and he was quite a big deal. And I remember always sitting there and going, oh my God, wouldn't I like to have a guy like this on my team? Can you imagine the database he has, the charisma he has? And I've since found out that George probably would have been a very frustrating distributor to have on my team, which we'll go into later. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that George and I teamed up about 3.5 years ago, and we're having a lot of fun now. So George, your turn. And I always hate to turn the microphone over to George last, but here we go.
I don't think of this as your introduction. I think of this as my rebuttal. So I think it's interesting that Jim and I first saw each other both on stage. I was on a stage and he was on a stage. He was on a stage at a network marketing company where he was being honored because he and his two sons were all in the top 10 of the top money earners of this company. And I was firmly ensconced in the back row. And interestingly enough, I also saw network marketing at a very early age and thought, oh my goodness, this has got to be the most elegant business model I've ever seen. I was so excited about it. My story differs completely from Jim. Jim, it didn't matter what he was doing, whether he was the best paper boy in Miami or a guy that took a $500 investment and turned it into a $17 million a year company that was later bought out by a Fortune 500. Then Jim left Maine. You're going to notice he has an accent, and that's not from Arizona, or as he says, Arizona, which I'm like, I didn't even know. All this time I've been spelling it without the R, and I feel very bad. But he moved to Arizona and started doing what he always does, which is build more businesses, more companies. Became a distributor of the year, 2 different network marketing companies. Been married this is 50th year, right? This was
we just hit 50 in August. Yeah.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was going to be celebrated in Maui, but instead he decided maybe not this year.
Yeah.
So that didn't fall that well. But 2 great kids. Everything about his life, he has been a consistent top performer in every part of his life. And he was the guy when I got into network marketing. You talk about DJ about seeing some of the top people. Mm-hmm. Jim was the guy that I wanted to be. And this whole project, the consistency chain, really started because while I experienced a great deal of success in the speaking industry, the fact that I was never able to make network marketing work for me really bothered me. And about 5-6 years ago, I started the research to try and figure out how it was that I could be successful in one area of my life, and this other area that I was motivated and I had the dream and I did the work as far as setting the goals and doing the affirmations and all that stuff, how it is that I could fail repeatedly. I mean, it makes me laugh when Jim says that, he would have loved to have had me on his team. I'm like, no, I'm the guy that drives every network marketing leader crazy. I'm a guy who apparently has a great deal of promise, who has a lot of other success in other areas of his life, and yet somehow it just hit the wall in network marketing. And that was kind of the genesis of this whole journey, is to find out why that is, why people like me, which, let's be honest, that's the majority of people in network marketing, why they struggle, why some people succeed and why some people struggle. And that's how this whole thing started.
I would look at people like George, DJ, and go, my God, he's got everything going for him. Why isn't he successful? And then I just chalked it up to he's not motivated enough, or wasn't focused enough, or had a big enough why to make him cry. And that I wanted it more for him than he wanted it for himself, which is a crock of crap, right? And little did we know that our brains are literally wired differently for
Right.
gratification.
Yep.
And that's what we found out as a matter of our research.
No, I think it's impressive that two people from major different side of the spectrum, right? Someone that had amazing success, top 1% in the industry, to where someone has all the gifted, talented in the world, and just almost like they're running on that treadmill where they couldn't get that traction to go to the next level. And that's what really impressed me in your book, is you broke it down from both angles, right? From Jim's angle, who had a lot of success, but then also George, where you struggled a little bit. And you would think from a network marketer like myself, who's had success, would have learned more from Jim because of his success. But
Yeah.
the truth of the matter, I actually learned a little bit more, no disrespect to you, Jim, from George's standpoints, because he explained what I needed to hear from people, from the people that weren't having the success, but they had all the talent in the world, right?
Right. I mean, that's what we say. It's hard to lead people you don't understand.
Absolutely.
And there was this huge gap between your experience and my experience, and it's got to be extremely frustrating for leaders. I mean, it's like Jim would hand out this roadmap. If you do this, you will succeed.
No, it wasn't a roadmap, George. It was called the Daily 8 Scorecard. 8 things to do every single day to be successful.
Yeah.
I gave this to George, and he looked at it and he says, 7 too many things on that list. And that's when it dawned on you that for years I've been trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And George actually, just like you, JJ, that you got more out of George's philosophy in the book. The same thing happened to me. All of a sudden I look at George and go, really? That's how he thinks? I mean, it really opens your mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's great to have both sides of the coin and really understanding it, because I've heard something called the Thompson rule by a mentor of mine, Ray Higdon, and he talks about the 80-15-5. 80% of the people, they just want to make an extra $500 a month, right? And 20% of the people, they want to make maybe a couple grand a month, and less than 5% actually want to go make the big dollars, 25K or more a month. And I grew up being trained by the 5% mentality, and
Sure.
Everything starts from the bottom or the top and goes down, right? And when you're trained a certain way how to run like a 5%er, sometimes you forget, or you weren't trained the right way on how to communicate with the 80% or even the 15%. And so let's dive into that, because I mean, that's really what the topic of the book is, right? It's talking about something called the Pareto principle? Is that the technical term of it?
Yeah, the Pareto principles. Vilfredo Pareto was this 18th century Italian social scientist who discovered that 80% of the wealth in Italy was held by 20% of the people. And then as he started looking at this, he realized, oh my God, this ratio is unbelievably pervasive, to the point where I saw this on the news the other day and it just made me laugh, is that 80% of COVID is spread by 20% of the people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing how often this comes up. And as I was starting to study this, the thing that bugged me about it was why? how is it that people can be so different and yet we fall so easily into one of these two categories? And when you started to eliminate the things that were obviously present in both groups, intelligence, education, training, background, even ambition, then you're left with what we believed was the real differentiating factor, and that is the 20% high achievers do what needs to be done when it needs to be done on a relentlessly consistent basis.
Yep.
And the 80% people like me, we know what needs to be done. I sat in all the trainings, I read all the books, but what I didn't do was I didn't take those business building steps on a consistent basis. And that was the difference. And so then obviously the next logical leap then is, well, why? How is it that I have such a challenge with this and Jim doesn't? And then there was a study that we cite in the book, and I'll not go too deep into it, but basically it exposes the fact that 20% of the people are driven, or at least their decision-making is governed by their ability to delay gratification. They literally think in a different part of the brain. They think of the prefrontal cortex. So Jim, for instance, Jim you're making a decision, Jim, about building your business.
Yeah, and if let's just say a contest comes up, and I look at the contest and look at it, and trip to Maui, let's say, and I look at it and go, okay, how can I get to Maui? What do I have to do to get to Maui? Well, I need to pick up the phone, number one, and so it puts me into action. It answers the question: if I get into action, will it get me close to my goal? And yes, it does. So I pick up the phone and I make that call. And whereas somebody like George would probably not pick up the phone quite as easily.
Well, it's not even a question of quite as easily. It's whether or not I'm going to do it at all, because I'm thinking in a different part of my brain, if the prefrontal cortex is a seat of delayed gratification, then instant gratification lives in the ventral striatum. And decisions back here, it's a much more primal part of the brain. And I make my decisions, generally speaking, we call it the ESP filter. Is it easy? Is it safe? Is it pleasurable? In the moment. I'm not thinking long-term. I'm just thinking right now because I'm driven by instant gratification. So Jim and I both want to go to Maui. Jim and I both want to win the trip. We both want to be successful in our company. I'm looking at the same thing about picking up the phone. Now, I'm naturally an introvert, so I have another layer on top of this. But is it easy for me to pick up the phone? No, it is not. It is not. Is it safe? No, people could reject me. I could feel bad about myself. It doesn't feel safe at all. Is it pleasurable? No, it's not pleasurable. So we can be two men with exactly the same desire, exactly the same ambition, looking at exactly the same decision and make two completely different decisions. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to make the phone call. I'm not going to do that. That's too honest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for the love of Pete, it's Monday. You can't call people on Monday. My God, everybody's just back to work. I'll call tomorrow. Tuesday. Well, you can't call Tuesday. People just getting over Monday. You can't do Wednesday. Wait, they call it hump day for a reason. Thursday should be called almost Friday. Friday, well, you can't call people. People wrapping up their week. You can't call people on Friday. Saturday, can't call people on Saturday. People, that's our family day. Sunday, church and football. Hello, I can't call, and now we're back to Monday.
Right.
And so what I do is I just keep pushing, finding a valid reason that feels easy, safe, and pleasurable to keep pushing my success way, one day at a time, a little bit further away, until finally I'm the guy that's no longer showing up at the meetings. I'm the
guy that's looking around the room going, where did George go? He had so much potential. Anybody seen George? What happened to him?
And George, in this, I represent 80, 90% of network marketing.
Yeah.
The people that came in, wanted to do it, felt like they could do it, probably could do it, and yet for some reason they disappeared.
Yeah.
So and we as leaders, DJ, we're giving them what work for us, but doesn't work for them.
Right.
And we just chalked it up to some will, some won't. So what next?
Mm-hmm.
Terrible philosophy.
Hear it at every training that I've been to. And of course, going through the numbers. So let's transition it a little bit. How did you overcome, both of you from both perspectives? Jim, you working with the 80% thinkers, right? And then George as an 80% mindset. of the procrastination and coming up with the excuses per se in your brain. Like, what was that transition for you where you had that aha moment to actually do the steps to get the results that people look for the 80 percenters?
Sure.
Jim,
Well,
on your side, how did you motivate the 80 percenters once you understood how they thought?
So basically, when you're faced with this fact that you're driven by this part of your brain, which is not empowering you, then you have to think there's three options. Number one, you can learn to develop instant gratification, which I found to be a no-go. I read everything. And I bought books on instant gratification. I bought them on Kindle. Why? Because I wanted them instantly. I mean, my God, who could tell if there's going to be a disconnect here? Or two, you could quit when I'm faced with this and I'm not going to be able to overcome it. Or three, which is what the consistency chain is all about. And it basically says, let's quit asking people to defy their essential nature. Let's say, I tell you what, instead of asking you to delay gratification, instead of asking you to look at this long off goal that you don't believe you're ever going to get to and it's too far away, it's not instant gratification. Let's do this. Let's take instant gratification and let's find a method or a tactic by where we could take that instant gratification and put it in service of long-term goals. And that's what this is all about. It's about, I saw a neuropsychologist talking about, it's about micro slicing. Is I've got to get stuff so that I can feel the win in the moment. And because I can do that, I'm going to show up. So we redefine goals. We have what we call ER directions. And when I started, when I first put this to the test, I said, I'm going to work out, which is something I'd never done before. And I said, and I'm not going to set the traditional goals that I always have. Instead, I said, I'm going to be fitter, stronger, healthier, all ER goals. And I went to the gym and I came back that day and I looked at myself in the mirror and I could, with complete integrity, I could say to myself, you know what, George, you're fitter, you're stronger, you're healthier. And because I could win just then in the moment, I wouldn't wait until some far off date where I weighed a certain amount of weight. No, right now, today, I win. It's instant. It feels great. And because of that, I would show up the next day. And the next day, and I put together, by the time I was done, a string of 531 consecutive workout days, which if you knew me, you would know that's impossible. And the only way I did it was just because I allowed myself to be instantly gratified every single day. And you can imagine in a like a network marketing business, what your business would look like if you isolated a key activity that you could take advantage of every single day and show up 531 days in a row. I mean, my God, you wouldn't even be able to recognize your life.
Well, we talk about it, George. Most people stop before they even start in network marketing. And it's just too far off. I mean, when they announce a contest and you look at the audience and in the first three rows are looking at it like, how do we win 2 trips? How do we win the airfare? And everybody else is going, well, those contests are for DJ. Those are for Jim. Those are for somebody else. And can you imagine if we had the philosophy where we allowed that 80% to feel good about themselves every single day? I mean, and you start stringing together feeling good every single day, then the results will happen.
Yeah. And when Jim, I would look at that trip and I would just think, man, I hope Jim sends me a postcard.
Well, I was just going to say, George, that most people, when a company or a team leader announces a contest, they shut off right away. 80% go,
sure.
There's no way I can win it.
No.
And talking about contests, one side note, one of the things I've learned as a leader, learning from people like you from your book, but also other leaders in the industry, is you got to make a contest that the 80 percenters can win and have multiple winnings and ways to get there for the builders, the drivers, but then also the ones that want to just flip the card every day, right?
Right.
And
right.
That's a key component. So it's interesting.
So with the chain gang, the essence of what the chain came in was because I saw an interview with Jerry Seinfeld talking about how he became rich and famous, basically. And he isolated one key activity, writing jokes every single day. And then he got a piece of paper, got a calendar, wrote jokes the first day, marked it off, wrote jokes the second day, marked it off. And the genius of Seinfeld was he didn't see 2 X's on a calendar. He saw 2 links on a chain. And from that day forward, from day 3 all the way through his career, he had one goal, simple, very understandable to that part of the brain that was resist us. And it was simply this: don't
break
the chain. Don't break the chain. And that's all we have to do. See, that's the reason why this works for people like me, is I'm not caught up in the all the what could happen in the future and if I'm ever going to get there. No. It's just right now.
Yeah.
Don't break the chain. All I have to do is do my activity today. That's all I have to do. I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I don't have to put any pressure on myself. I don't have to worry about a 90-day blitz or a 120-day Bataan death march or whatever we're doing. I just have to worry about today. And that was the reason why I was able to put together the kind of consistency that I'd never experienced before. And since then, we've been working with people, helping them to understand this concept. And the results have been unbelievably gratifying. Nice. Because I will tell you, my heart is with those people in the back of the room because I was them. And I wanted it bad and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get there. And that's what we're trying. Those are the people we're really trying to affect. We want to help leaders to understand them, but those people, if we can help those people reach out and feel good about what they're doing and stay in the process of reaching their dreams and building their business, man, that's the most gratifying thing I could ever feel.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Can you
right.
imagine how many people we could have saved, or how many people we could have changed their life if perhaps we had changed our philosophy a little bit, become a better leader, right? And George, I think it was important to talk about the chain gang concept itself, because that was so eye-opening when we did that questionnaire.
Yeah. So we decided at one point about a year and a half ago that we wanted to get some metrics so that when we talk to a leader in a company, we say, if you will help us implement this, these are the kind of results you can expect to see. And so we set up a case study, and we interviewed 100 people. We had people fill out 100 surveys, and they were all in network marketing. And Jim, you went through them first.
Yeah, I went through them because I wanted to pick out the top 20 people that we could have involved in the chain gangs, because we wanted the metrics so that we could go to the owners of companies or leaders of organizations to show them, results. And I went through the 20, and I got 20 good ones. I threw away the rest. And I said, hey, George, why don't you go through the same 100 and let's see how many overlap. So George goes through the 100 as well. And DJ, I'll ask you this question. How many do you think overlap between George's group and my group?
Well, there's two answers I want to give you, but I'm going to say none if I'm thinking of you guys.
You're right.
All right. So I'm going to say none because of where you came from.
Yeah. Well, and Jim was looking for the leaders. I mean, that's what, sorting for leaders. That's an entire philosophy. And I was looking at this like, who are the people that without an intervention are going to be gone next month? Mm-hmm. Who are the people we could have impact on? And we found people who were in the 5 to 10% activity range, meaning in their company, they were reaching out to 1 or maybe 2 possible people a month to share their business.
Those are the ones that, TJ, I took and put in the far right. I mean, can you imagine reaching out to one person in the course of a month, and you're in a network marketing company? I go, you gotta be kidding me. That's going over here. That's going over here. And those are George's top people.
Well, I mean, statistically thinking, I was looking at also from the fact if you could take somebody from 5 to 10% and bump them up to 30% or 40 or 50%, that would be an unbelievable turnaround. And what happened was we put we put these people in little groups of 3 to 5 people. There was a support and accountability group where they would check in and they would get responses and feedback and reminders all day long that they were in the game. And what we saw was instantly, and I mean instantly, the
overnight,
that day, the entire across the spectrum of people, it bumped from 5 to 10% to a consistent 82-83%.
It's powerful.
And that was through the holidays, George, like last Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and the crazy virus that we've been going through as well. Yeah.
So then we realized, well, we had to kind of redo this and make it more scalable so that we could help more people. And so we partnered with the tech company, and we have it's called the chaingangapp.com. And that it's not in the app store, it's because it's a web app. So if somebody's interested, you can go to there and join, enroll, and you will be sorted into a group of 4 or 5 other people. that it doesn't matter what anybody's single activity is. It's just a matter of the support and accountability of the team. And we found it to be unbelievably powerful.
So they can go to the chaingangapp.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what network marketing company you're in. It's a neutral area where you can just have an accountability partner, if you will, and hold yourself accountable to yourself, but also to a handful of other people, which to me is brilliant. I started at Labor Day weekend, actually, after I got done reading your book. This is a kudos to you guys. I started a WIN accountability group where every Monday night we get the group of people on. We go over our goals from the week prior, who hit them, who didn't, why, what we do to adjust. And then we set our new goals for the following week. And goals are not result goals. Goals are activity goals. How many people did I send a direct message to? Did I follow up with? How many presentations did I do? Did I read personal development book? Did I listen to an audio? Did I go to the gym? We set those goals up. Is that your 8 up there? And so,
yes, you're a leader.
Yeah. So
you're part of that 20%
created it. And then what we do 4 times a week is we do what's called a 30-minute WIN blitz, where we all come on a Zoom, and it's income producing activities where we just literally send out messages, do follow-ups, and then we have a chat group where we put our numbers in of how many we did to hold each other accountable. And I get people all the time go, DJ, if it wasn't for this accountability group, I wouldn't have done the activity today. Thank you so much for putting this together. Even if one person shows up, I show up. If there's 10, great. If there's 20, it could be 2 people. It doesn't matter.
Right. It's the most, when you combine something like the simplicity of don't break the chain with just a little bit of support and accountability. And I mean, sometimes, because you get these intermittent pings during the day that so-and-so checked in and so-and-so checked in. Sometimes I know in my own personal life, I've really intended to do something. I just flat out forgot. I just in the heat of the day, in the heat of what's going on, I just completely forgot. Well, this is not going to happen with this. So it's been a really fun ride. We're still making it better and working on it, but we're very, very excited about the results we're getting.
So 2 questions I have for you guys before we wrap it up is, one, who is this book for? Because we're talking about 80%ers, but I think it's beyond, it's much greater than that. So enlighten everybody on that. And where can people find you on social media? Where can they find your books? And what I'll do also for the audience is I'll put it in the thread where this is posted as well. But for the ones that are listening live right now, where can they find your information? But talk about who the book would be for.
Well, it's funny because I used to sit in those meetings and everybody it didn't matter if it's network marketing, it can be companies outside of that, but the people on stage are always the 20% because they've earned the right to be there. And so you have 20% people presenting 20% ideas are going to resonate with exactly 20% of the audience, and the 80% go home unfed. And when we decided to do this, I said, I want to speak to the entire audience. We laugh and say, Jim speaks to the first 2 rows and I speak to everybody all the way back. Yeah. So, I mean, our hope is that the people like me, and we've had when we're still able to do live events, people come up and it's just all hugs and kisses for me because I'm the first person they've ever seen on stage that validates their experience, that they can go, oh my God, that's me. And it gives them, and this is probably one of the most gratifying things, it gives them hope. And I mean, I see people with tears in their eyes and it's like, why did no one ever explain this to me? I've been fighting the wrong battle for all this time. And so from that aspect of it, we want to speak to the 80%. And then Jim, the reason why we did our partnership is I wanted to have leaders, somebody that they could relate to.
Well, I think what had happened, George, you did the first few programs and you could relate to 80% of the people in the audience. And I think you tell it better than I do, but you realize that the leaders would come up to you and go, really, this is how the 80%ers think? This is, and that's when George realized, that he was missing a portion of that audience.
Right. I was just doing the reverse where we used to have the 20% speak to the 20 and now I was the 80 speaking to the 80 and we were still missing some engagement points. So that's the reason why our partnership has been really fun and interesting. As far as getting a hold of us, we're the Consistency Chain on Facebook, and Jim and I, Jim Packard, George Campbell on LinkedIn. That's one of the better ways to get a hold of us. The consistency chain for network marketing is on Amazon. That's the only place it's sold. And I'm trying to think what else.
Are you guys?
So you can go to our
well?
our website,
Consistency chain.
consistencychain.com. See
Yep.
everything on there.
Yep.
It's,
And then is your handle on Instagram, is it Consistency Chain?
We're not even on Instagram, and I know that's got to be a bad thing.
That's all right. Maybe we'll change that. We'll change that real quickly. I mean, you guys are absolutely amazing. Your humor in the book comes out. You had me laughing out loud. You had me intensely. I mean, mine's all marked up with a yellow highlighter all over the place on it. And Jim, thanks for sending that book to me. And I've really valued your friendship we're developing, and George, your time today. If you could give one nugget away from your experience and your successes, both as the 80/20, for someone that's brand new, we're in the year 2020. They're going through hell this year. They want to make 2021. We got 2 months left of the year. What would be your marching orders right now, sitting down with somebody?
Yeah.
you know, go ahead,
Go ahead,
George.
Jim.
No, you go ahead.
We talk in the book about Navy SEALs and how a Navy SEAL makes it through the 5 weeks. And the reality is the people that are successful in Navy SEALs aren't making it through the 5 weeks. They're making it through one simple task, and their goal may be as simple as, I'm just going to make it to breakfast. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get through. If you make it to breakfast day after day after day, you're a Navy SEAL. And if you're in a business, especially in network marketing, if you show up day after day after day and just do that key activity, reaching out to a couple people, talking to one, you do that day after day after day. And then just like the Navy SEAL who gets a trident pinned on their chest at some point, sometime you're going to be standing on the stage and you're going to be exactly where you want to be. And you're going to be looking at the back of the room saying, not only am I shocked that I'm up here, I'm in awe that I can now help all the other people in the room get to the same place.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And I'd like to add to that, DJ, in that when we first, we think of our program as the complementary piece to anybody's training. We're not trying to replace anybody's training. All we're trying to do is to reach out to the 80%ers and make them feel good about themselves every single day. And that's why we came up with a program of 21, reaching out to 2 or talking to 1. And that's where you see the stark difference between George and I, because when we were starting our business, the Consistency Chain, George, because of his 30 years of speaking, I go, George, you can at least talk to 1 person a day to get this business up and running, right? And George looks at me like a deer in the headlight type of look, like, I'm not sure I could talk to 1 person a day. And I said, well, you could at least reach out to a couple people. And George said, yeah, if I didn't have to talk to them. And that's when it dawned on me that I go, you got to pick an activity that's so simple to do, and that at the end of the day, they can write down on that calendar, I am fitter, I'm a better leader, I'm a better prospector, I'm a better recruiter, whatever it might be. So they feel good about themselves every single day. Eventually, what's going to happen if you keep reaching out to 2 people, people are going to start calling you back, and you are going to talk to them. So I would take something that's so simple that it's almost laughable that any person can do, because let's look back and look at all the people that we lost in the past because we tried to give them 20% activities when we shouldn't have been doing that. We should have been appealing to the 80%ers and making them feel good, or helping them feel good about themselves every single day. So
that's awesome. It's funny, George, that you said that I wrote down one of my favorite chapters on my notes, and it was the Navy SEAL chapter I was going to talk to you about, but you led right into it perfectly at the end. So first and foremost, I know your time is valuable, and I thank both of you guys for making time for me today, my audience. And I'm really excited for them to get your book, reach out to you guys. This is the book will definitely change your life. And what I learned, it's not just for the 80%ers, but it's for 20%ers on how to work with the 80%ers. Right. And that was probably one of the biggest takeaways that I've got. So I appreciate your time today for both of you guys.
You bet. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, DJ.